All right, welcome to T0 Endurance webinar series. Today we have a great guest. We've got 5 more weeks of great content for you. If you go to iwishIwasracing.com, you're going to find some great inspirational videos. You'll find previous webinars we have, as well as some workouts some of the top pros are willing to give to you. So our guest this week, like I was telling him before he came on, I wish we had 2 hours to talk to him because he's been in triathlon forever. The wonderful thing that I read about him is he has been in triathlon for about 30 years, and it's all about a lifestyle for him, and I love that. Graham Fraser, it's great to have you on the show. Oh, pop on your audio, Graham.
Other button. There you go.
Oh, hit one more button. One more button over.
The yellow one.
There, you got it. Wait. Oh, it's still not working, Graham. Testing. It's still not going. Uh-oh. We're not getting Graham through here. He's going to try it again. Hold on a second. He's going to come back. Graham ran the races. He didn't do the tech for it. Just going to give you a background of Graham Fraser. Graham, he was the man who was instrumental in bringing into North America the Ironman races. Actually, he brought in Ironman Canada in 1996, and then subsequently brought in Ironman Lake Placid and Ironman Florida in 1999. He'll get back on here in a second, but he's been in Canada making a difference in the triathlon world, and it's been one of those things that is so important for him. I've read a lot about him and found out that he was instrumental in helping the Canadians, the youth Canadians, to actually go to and train to compete in many triathlons around the world. And so it's one of those most important things to actually start to get people excited for triathlon and get people involved in triathlon. So Graham Fraser, he's going to be on here in a few minutes here. Just kind of giving you a background of, he's an Ironman Hall of Famer as well as a Canadian Triathlon Hall of Famer. It's one of those people that if you ever find him on the street, you need to thank him, because he's the one who brought all this racing over here to North America. He's been actually
back in 1999 when he brought Ironman to Lake Placid.
Yep, 99. Yeah, and he's actually he was telling us he's done over 300 triathlons himself, as well as he's actually put on over 300 triathlons himself. So it's one of those things that he is a fundamental staple in the triathlon world. We're having a little technical difficulties with getting Graham on here, but he should be back on here in a second. I'm Fireman Rob. This is Todd Jennings. We're both the founders of T0 Endurance. T0 Endurance is going to be one of those great platforms that's going to be able to provide you with everything triathlon, and it is going to be a fundamental piece in your starting of your triathlon journey, whether it's a sprint, an Olympic, or a long distance triathlon, half distance triathlon. It's going to be Oh, I see Graham is going to be back on, so you're not going to have to listen to my voice as much anymore. Graham, I think he's going to get on here in a second.
Yeah.
There.
We got video.
Hey, we got him.
Audio.
I don't know what happened.
You should have heard all the great things I was talking about you.
Okay, I apologize. It was there, then it went away.
No, you're good. You're good. I was telling everybody all of your backstory, but we can get kind of started here. Sure. Graham, you have been a staple in triathlon and really an advocate for that lifestyle, that healthy lifestyle, whether you're doing a sprint or you're doing a full distance triathlon. Tell us what you've been doing while you've had to stay at home now.
Yeah, it's what you just said, it's lifestyle. You keep the same lifestyle. I mean, today I rode my bike up to Apex Mountain, up to the ski hill, and did a nice hill climb, and it's nice spring weather here, so I can get out and ride. So I've been riding every day, and I always tell people about 80% of my life's the same. Like you still keep your activities. I go to the gym every morning, I ride my bike, I do all those things, but it's the social interaction that's missing now. So that's why it's fun to do things like this, because it's nice to talk to people, and maybe there's some good of that. There's some good things that come out of it where people just take a breath and think about other things. So no, we've been active, and I'm involved with hockey. That's the thing I'm involved with now, and I'm the chairman of the BCHL and own a hockey team here in British Columbia. So we've, like all sports, we have a lot of problems going on. So there's a lot of meetings, a lot of phone calls, a lot of things. Yeah. And because of triathlon and all the crisis management I got to do, you got a little experience on how to handle certain things. But this one's new. This is absolutely a new thing. We've all, on a life level and on a business level, it's very new for people.
Oh, I can imagine. My son actually plays hockey, so I know how involved that is. So
Yeah.
you've had that. One of the big things, you've been around this industry for a while, and one of the big things that we're doing with this platform is to provide some inspiration and some real focus for these individuals who either they're going for their first triathlon ever this year and it was canceled or it's postponed, or they're going in and just it's their lifestyle, but they don't have, like you said, that social interaction. What would you say to keep positive in this time?
Well, yeah, I think you have to keep the same outlets. Like, a lot of people, you get into doing triathlons and sports like this because you need an outlet, something to burn energy. Some people use meditation. Some people are very goal driven. So whatever your reason is and why you do things, I think you've got to understand that. And I would say, personally, I think you step back and maybe, do it in a different way. Like take 1 year and think about, keep the lifestyle, but don't think about whether I got to break 11 hours in an Ironman or I got to do my, sub 2:15 Olympics. It's like maybe just step back and just look at it differently. Just go and enjoy being outside doing things and maybe hone your skills a bit. Like,
Right.
like when I did it, I was a triathlete for almost 30 years and I was a horrible swimmer the whole time because it's the one sport I didn't really like a lot and I never worked that hard at it.
Well, you
And
liked
so
hockey, so why would you like swimming?
hockey players can't swim. It's a base
Right.
dive, So anyway, and I never liked the water all that much. So, but it would be an opportunity if that's your problem to get in there and, maybe of course pools aren't open right now, but they will open again and lakes will open up. But work on something and make your weakness something that you work on. But I think, I think it's just to reevaluate your life, and you can still do triathlons without doing an event. You can still
Right.
go out, you can still swim, bike, and run, or maybe you take up paddleboarding. Sometimes it's just good to do something different. Like people who are old triathletes, I'll say you're experienced, done it a long time. Maybe you'll step back and say, maybe I'll try hiking this year. Maybe I'll go with my family hiking instead of me going off by myself riding my bike for 5 hours.
Right.
So maybe it's just a time to. I think you just got to try different things and be active, but and maybe work on that weakness you have, and so when it does come back, because this will come back, that you gain something from it. But
I love that idea of make the most of your challenges, make them into opportunities. And I think that's such a great message from somebody who's been in this industry for a long time. So I want to kind of go back, and a lot of people know your history, and those who don't are going to go, well, thank you for bringing all this to us, because you back in, let's see, I'm gonna go. I've got a board behind me. If you could see it, it's got more writing on it than any other teacher's board because it's all Graham Fraser stuff. So I go back to 1985. You did Ironman Kona, correct?
84.
84. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
So subsequently after that, you came back and you started this 5-race series in Canada that really brought about triathlon to Canada. So tell us a little more about why you started that.
It's interesting. It relates back to hockey. When I went down and did the Ironman in the '84, I wasn't a triathlete per se. I was just a guy that saw it on TV, and I was going to New Zealand and Australia on a 3-month biking trip. So I stopped over and did the Ironman.
Why not?
When I did it, yeah, and it was new. Like we didn't know what it was, right? We honestly didn't know what it was. I couldn't even swim. I got into the stupid thing. I didn't know how to swim, so that was interesting. But I when I got back from my trip, I put on a bike-a-thon in my hometown for the hockey team I played for. I played junior hockey, and I just loved my experience in hockey. So I wanted to give back. So I put on this bike-a-thon to raise money, and then that evolved into putting on a triathlon the next year. Like when I came back from, I said, why don't we put on a triathlon and do something? So I put on one in my hometown. And then we had 300 people because we cut it off at 300, and it was quite an interesting experience because we didn't know what we were doing, putting on the event. And there was no races to emulate. There was nobody to learn from. There was no sport.
Right. No Google to
especially
find out how to,
no
right?
Google, nobody could help me. And I was young. I didn't have business experience. I didn't have event experience, but we worked really hard at it. And then two other towns asked me to put on an event. So that's when I kind of started thinking, maybe there's something here. This people seem to have interest in this. So, I ended up, meeting a real estate company in Canada and got into their boardroom and sold these 5 corporate guys on putting on a little series in Ontario that they sponsored. And I always tell the story. I came back and I was dating my wife at the time, and we got a $15,000 check to put on these 5 races, and I thought it was $1 million. You think about, it was just like, to me, it was like, I got $15,000 to put on these races, and so, we went and we created that series, and instantly, it just took off. Like the demand, people started doing the races, and the 5 races became 9, and then we ended up with the first ever Canadian championship. Then we put on the World Championship in 1992 in Muskoka. So it was kind of this curve that just, we kind of rode quickly, but it was something we could manage. So, and we had TV right away, and we brought in the pros. So it was really trial by error. Like, we had to really, really, learn quick to pull this off. But it was a good training ground for what was coming with Ironman. Like, I speak to students, young groups. I always say, you can't start at the top. I was very fortunate that I started with one small race. I put on 5 race series, and then we were doing races across Canada. Then it led to the World Championship, and then it led to Ironman Canada. So it was kind of this learning curve of steady growth, and building a team of people around you that could help do it. There's no way one person does all this. It's always a group of people.
Right. And the ITU that you brought in 1992, that ITU World Championships, that really shot forward a lot of the great Canadian triathletes. And you've been an integral part of helping those young Canadian triathletes, not only with sponsorship and assistance, but really with the drive and the empowerment to be able to have them train and actually go on a national scene and actually win some. Peter Reed, you look at some of the great names, Peter Reed, Lisa Bentley, you look at some of these great Canadian triathletes. Tell us more of how that kind of spurred those Canadian triathletes into the world scene.
Well, and I love how you said that, because it's one of the things I take pride in, and they're all great friends still. Like, they're people that I've had in my life, through my whole career. And at the end of my career, when, things were difficult, getting out of Ironman, they're the ones that supported you. The ones that, you started with, they support you, and they're all great people. But, it was kind of, I think, giving them a stage to race early in the game. And we were fortunate that we had some sponsors that, we got some money from to put up prize money. We had a fund to fly them across Canada and do races. We had back in the late 80s, early 90s, the sport was more developed than it is now on that, short course circuit, like, across Canada, because there was just corporate assistance. And we had a Royal LePage back then was putting $500,000 into the sport.
Wow.
That's a lot of money in the late 80s, early 90s. And, so we had this, prize money circuit. We put them on TV. They became known. So it gave them a platform, to actually race good competition also. So, they all raced. And then, and I always tell the stories, like, Lisa Bentley and Heather Fury-Learbo, never did I think these little young girls that started racing would become the icons of the sport and the careers that they had. Like, you know them as young people, but they all 3 had one commonality: their work ethic and their drive and their commitment to it was off the charts. Like, they, it's not by chance that those 3 had the careers they did. Like, they knew how to work, and they, believe me, they sacrifice. Like any pro athlete. Like, people think it's easy. It's sacrifice. You're giving up a lot of your life to do it, but it's the passion. Like, when you're, I know you want to talk about, my life, kind of what I believe in. And if you follow your passion, it's not work. And what Lisa Bentley, to this day, who I still stay in touch with, and I go biking with her in Florida, and like, she's still doing it. She still goes and swims and bikes and runs, and so it's an ingrained passion. It's not a forced fit. Parents who force their kids into sports and think they've got to be the next superstar of that sport, if the kids don't have the passion, forget it. Like, it all comes within. And most of these great athletes that I got fortunate to, the Dave Scotts and Scott, other people that I've known throughout this whole journey, that's a commonality.
Right. And you hit it on the head when you talked about passion in the sport, because triathlon is not something where you just go, well, unless you're you and you go to Hawaii and you go, well, I'll just try out this Ironman thing. But most people, it's a undertaking of great magnitude, and they have to find that passion or that why. And I love that you said that, because, what is it about triathlon that really you feel is so empowering? What is the biggest thing that you think?
Multiple answers to that question.
Right. Okay.
I don't think you can say it in one thing, but I know when I was a young guy and I did Hawaii at 23, and I really believe doing that at that age when it was a sport that no one knew, and I felt like I climbed Everest. Like, back
Right.
then when I finished the race, and I was slow as a turtle the first one I did because I didn't know what I was doing, but I came out of that thing. And so when I started putting on races, I had this inner belief that I could do whatever the hell I wanted.
Right.
Right. Like I really
Right.
believe, and what we ended up doing in our career, there's so many walls and barriers to get over to accomplish the events that we put on and how it grew. But if I hadn't done that Ironman, at that young age, I don't know if I would have had that, stick-to-itiveness and confidence, to be able to do that. Like, I think it helps build that. So I think that's a takeaway. I think it helps build sort of your confidence in life. I think everyone does it for different reasons. And I personally believe that if it's your passion, that you just love swimming, biking, running, competing, being outside, being with that group, if you're just there to get a logo, tattooed on you or wear the clothes, you're going to be in and out very quickly.
Right.
Because it's not truly your passion. But the ones who really love it, it's just something that you do. You wake up every day and it's part of who you are. It's, it drives your lifestyle and your health and your family and all those different things. It always comes down to balance. So if you keep it in balance, it's a wonderful experience. If you get out of
Right.
balance, it becomes a detriment. So I think you got to understand what it is too. It's all about balance.
That's so true. And especially like right now, we're so imbalanced with having to stay inside and not having that social thing. And so it's almost creating that challenge for individuals right now inside their houses to find that balance, to be able to go when everything comes back to normal, they can be normal.
But again, what we talked about earlier, turn that into something good. Like,
Exactly.
Training 20 hours a week. Now you got time for your wife, your kids, your whatever. So cherish that time, because that's stuff that you don't normally get. If you're working, 40, 50 hours a week and training 20 and you do whatever, there's always something you don't do. So now you got time to do that, right? Spend time with your significant other, spend time with your kids, take up a new hobby.
Exactly.
I'm reading a ton. I like reading, so I'm reading a ton of things and different topics. My son bought a guitar. He's learning to play guitar.
Wow.
So just like things that maybe triathlon will come back. So
Right.
maybe I my personal opinion, I hate to say this, I follow, because of the hockey league, I have to really engage in this, what's going on with this COVID and where we might go. And, I do not believe there will be triathlons this year. Like I
Right.
think so, I don't think it's coming. Like, our Minister of Health in British Columbia was on the news, had a press conference yesterday and basically said anything in the summer is not happening. So
Right.
cancel it. Like, she was just giving me, I watched it and I go, we're
Makes
supposed to have
sense.
Ironman Canada back where I'm in Penticton next year. Well, probably not going to happen. So, so now if you might have
Right.
hope that it's coming, but now what do you do for the rest of the year? Right. If
Right.
your whole calendar was set on, I am doing my Ironman and now I can't. So it's hard on people, and I do believe that people in this day and age, what we're living right now, understand how unimportant that is.
Right.
Right. Like, in perspective, not demeaning it. Like, our hockey league was canceled in our playoffs this year. It was devastating. We had to send, all these boys home that were, it's their NHL draft year. All the scouts are there. They're playing the playoffs.
Oh.
And we were devastated when we had to cancel it and send them home. Now I step back and go, big picture.
Big picture. It's better to be alive than it is
it's
to.
not that important. It's hockey,
Yeah.
right? There will be another hockey year. These kids, there's a lot of life ahead. So, so you always gonna kind of, and believe me, it's still hard. I'm not saying it doesn't bug me.
Yeah.
We had a team that we thought could win the championship this year. We'd have, so now you're going, we know we had the team, but you step back and you go ride your bike up a mountain and, enjoy your wife.
Right. It's a moment in time. And, we hopefully, we have a lot of moments. And, I wanted to come from a different perspective with you. For a lot of the triathletes, they don't understand the amount of work that goes into making a race. And being a race director for so many races, I know a lot of people are so frustrated, like, wow, we can't have a race and this and that. Tell us how much time, I mean, just go over what it is for a race director, not just during the race week, but all the lead up, because that's the power that makes the race day valuable. And that I want to hear about that more.
Yeah. And that, and it's kind of like two different segments to answer. There is the pre-race, and then there's the race week.
Right.
And, and there's a lot of work pre-race to get these things, each event, I'll talk about Ironmans because it's the easier numbers to manage. If you've got 2,500 to 4,000 volunteers at an Ironman, right? Excuse me, someone calling me. Then
It's your next interview.
It's a lot of work to get volunteers. A medical team could be 100 to 200 people. The policing. So, and all these people are coming in from all over the place. It's not like they all live in that one community. So there's a lot of moving parts. Like people say, oh, why don't you just do the race on Sunday if you cancel Saturdays? If it rains, like it's just not that easy. So,
no.
And then all the crew and the staff and all the suppliers. So, the one question I've had through this a lot is because there is so many logistics and there's a cost.
Right.
Most of the cost is spent before the race happens. Yeah, you might save some prize money. The pros aren't getting you. There's a few people you might not pay if a race got canceled.
Right.
A week before a race, or if there was a storm, it's canceled. But most of the money's spent. Like had to pay all the people that work. You had to buy all the supplies. You've had to, do all those things. So, the big debate, you see on these forums is, what do you do with entry fees? I don't get to do my race. And it's a tough question because you didn't get the service. I understand from a consumer point of view, you didn't get the service.
Right.
But from that poor race director who's put the money out to build the product for you,
right.
It's not there. So I always say to athletes, well, they can give you your money back and go out of business. And now you have no races to do.
Right.
Right. So that's how do you do that? So everyone, when it's a community, you have to engage together and figure out how to make that work. But, and that ties into the logistics. There's so much that goes in. And it's so disappointing to the event people, not just the athletes, when it doesn't happen. I mean, we've had to cancel swims at Ironman. So it's really hard. You take it very, very hard because you want to deliver and give people that, we know how important that experience is to the athletes. So you don't want them not to have that, so,
right.
and they've spent money on hotels and bikes, this and that. So everyone gets all that, but it's not an easy one, but it's the same with everything in our society now. It's across the board. Everybody is out of business right now. Everybody's not doing their norm. So, I think compassion is the word I use. Everyone's got to have compassion right now and say, okay, put myself in that other person's shoes and what would I do? How do I help my neighbor? How do I help my race director? How do we help the athletes? How do you help people through it? So it's, I don't know if that helps your question. But
no, I think it speaks right to the question because, I think a lot of people are worried about, I'm not going to get my race fees back, or that, oh, they don't care about me. It's the race directors have been working at this for the whole year to make sure that your day or your days or however many triathlons you're going to are spectacular. And so, just kind of putting it out there as, be nice to the race directors because they're the ones that are making these things happen, whether they're strapping things together to make it happen or, spending hours and hours on end. And so, you've made a lot of dreams come true by putting on so many different races, and people have to understand that it's all a passion.
And those companies are losing their sponsorship. They're losing their merchandise sales. They bought the merchandise. It's sitting in a warehouse, but they can't sell it. So there's all these things that people, when they say, I want my refund, they don't understand. There's a lot to this. And
right.
There's corporate company, like Ironman's a corporate company versus the guy who puts on the local triathlon series that him and his wife put on, so there's different levels of businesses that do this and,
right.
and they all have their own problems on how they deal with that. So, but anyway, it's the community needs to stick together. That's the bottom line.
I love it. I love it. What is one of your favorite, we're switching links again here. What's one of your favorite workouts that you do?
Oh boy, when I was younger now.
Oh, come on. You're way younger than I am. Climbing mountains and everything.
Well, I love my favorite thing to do now is ride up mountains on my bike. Really simple. I get bored on flats. I like a challenge. So I like, every year we go to Italy or France and, ride the big mountains and stuff like that. So I love doing that. And, where I live in British Columbia, we've got a lot of mountains here. So I
Right.
really like what I did today. I woke up and it was nice, and my wife wanted to go for a drive, so she drove up, and I rode my bike up to. It was a 28K hill climb. You know, it takes a long time, and but you feel like you did something, right? And I
Right.
don't race anymore. Like I'm not a triathlete. I can't run anymore because I gotta get a new hip. So unfortunately, after 45 years of hockey and skiing and 400 races, my hip
Takes a toll.
my hip finally said that's enough. But I'll run again. I know I'll run again. But I was going to get it done before this COVID, but because I do miss running. But you know, cycling is a passion. I like cross country skiing. You know, all winter I cross country ski. So to me, again, you know, for triathletes, if you can't do a race, take up a new sport. Like I took up cross country skiing 20 years ago, but now it's my favorite sport. Like I love that being in the snow with the big
Right.
green trees, the white, you know, the whiteness, the sun, the mountain. It just, to me, it's the most beautiful workout, and it's the best for your body. So that's what I
I
love.
love it.
I love riding up mountains. I love cross country skiing.
One of the guests said, Patricia said she likes Nordic skiing. So
Yeah.
similar.
No, it's a fabulous sport.
It's a
No
fabulous
pounding.
sport.
No pounding.
Exactly. You gotta make a new triathlon. I think you should go with Nordic skiing. Then you do go on an indoor trainer, and then go out and skate a marathon. What do you think?
They do have winter triathlons. They actually
Really?
do. Yeah. I did one in Ottawa. We cross country skied, speed skated, and then as a hockey player, so I could do that, and then we ran.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they have those. So that's, you know, but you're always weather dependent on those things. It's always so fickle with what weather you get.
You
Or
guys are very
summer.
creative up in Canada, I have to say.
Well, you got to survive winter, right? If you're going to live in winter, you better enjoy it. So
I live in Wisconsin, so I shouldn't say too much.
yeah. You've got your winter too.
They do. You know, I want to ask you, what is your favorite quote? Because that's usually tells a big story about the person. What's your favorite one?
I thought about that, and I do read a lot of quotes, and I'm not a big quote, like I don't log them and keep my quotes.
Right.
I just believe, you know, live your passion. Like it's
I
very
love that
simple.
one.
It's what I tell my kids. It's what I always tell people, because and the reason it's so simple, but if you live your passion, like I always tell people, I never worked a day in my life.
Right.
Like, you know, we worked hard for a long time, but I never worked. I woke up every day, and I loved everything I did. There wasn't a part of it I didn't. I mean, there were hard parts, but the hard parts I enjoyed too, because those are
Right.
the challenges, right? We
Right.
dealt with a lot of people. You know, when you have 40,000 volunteers you're managing, and 20,000 athletes and sponsors and, you know, like staff, like there was a lot to deal with. But, you know, I miss that. Like the one thing I really, really miss that part of it, but I have it a bit in the hockey world, but I don't want to go back to the level I did, because it was a lot. But if you have passion, it's easy to train. It's easy to work.
Right.
You know, it's easy to wake up every day. And I believe a lot of people settle for, you know, just to have a job, settle just to survive. And I don't know how you live that way. Like, you know, personally, I just gotta have that. I love hockey. So every day I'm working now, I can't wait to get to the rink and go to the games and be with the kid. I mean, I'm hanging around a bunch of young kids that are aspiring to be in the NHL. So it's very motivating to help them to their goals. And that's what I do now with my life. I try and help other people. I've had a charmed life. So, you know, I just want to always give back and help as many people as I can live that life.
I love that. It's one of my favorite things of, you know, living your passion. And I think it's so true, because you don't work a day in your life, you know. Yesterday we had to cancel because I had a fire that I had to go back to, because that's one of my other passions.
Yes. Well,
But
good for you.
no,
I didn't
definitely
mind
it's
canceling for that.
yeah. It's kind of important, you know.
But you probably love doing it, right? Like
I do love doing it, and I've been doing it for 20 years. So
yeah. No, and it's just one of those things that's rewarding. And you know, and if you live your passion, at the end of your life, you sit in that rocking chair and you go, that was pretty good.
yeah, exactly. That is so true. That is so true.
Yeah.
Now, what is, you know, the power of the triathlon community? We were talking to Bob Babbitt not too long ago, and he said, you know, one of the biggest things is after a lot of turmoil and challenges, the first thing to come back is the endurance sports. And do you feel the same way? Because I think it's, you know, it's the people that are in the endurance sports that are the ones that are going to persevere. Is that kind of what you think?
Yeah. Bob's been around a long time, and he knows who does this and what they're like, and he's a great guy, by the way. But I do believe that, and I've said that on other things I've been interviewed. I said the sport will come back. It might take a couple years for people to travel to do the race abroad. Like they might do more local races. They might do the Ironman in their neighborhood. They do things like that. So I think there's going to be a bit of a feel on how that comes. But no, people still want to be outside and competing. I don't believe it'll in the long run it's going to hurt anything. It might actually help in some ways because people know what they miss, right?
Right. They're going to be hungry.
I kind of hadn't done a triathlon in 2 years, but I really missed that, and I want to get back at it. So, and again, I think there's a lot of smart people involved with the sport, and they'll figure out how to get that message out there. So
Penticton 2021, is that what I'm hearing?
I don't know. I got to get that new hip before I could.
Hey, here's what I will do it with you in 2021, and I'll walk in my gear so you can have whatever kind of hip you want because I go slow.
Oh, I don't want to go slow. Part of me, I don't like going slow.
You didn't seem like a slow kind of guy.
No, I always I like to race. I like to compete, and that's one of the reasons I bike race still. Like I did, like once in a while. Like I will go on bike races, and I've always loved racing. I did hundreds of races because I love that feeling at a start line. I love the energy. I love being with the people. I love to be side by side. I always say I hated swimming, but I actually enjoyed the swim in a triathlon.
Yeah.
I love the feeling of the race swimming.
Did you love the mass starts?
I did. I like being out there with people. I like being out there and just bumping shoulders and
I love that too.
Adrenaline and it's swimming into the shore and seeing the arch and the people there. Like, I don't know. I enjoyed that. So
I think everybody got a little. I think everybody got a little choked up just remembering that moment when they go to the end of the swim there. It's a great feeling.
No, it's a good feeling, and I love biking and running. So I thank God the swim's over. Now I can start the part of But I believe there's and the sport's interesting, and I don't follow the sport that much anymore. Like I've been out of it for 8 years, and so I don't know what goes on. But it's not that long ago, 8 years ago. And
right.
There's different types of athletes. So, but I think most people that do it just they love it, and you're going to come back because you love it.
So, and you do a lot of charity work and things like that, and you have a Centurion cycling company. I'm sorry.
We did. We don't do that anymore.
You don't do that anymore.
No. We moved out west, and I gave it to some other people to take over, and they did it a couple of years and then didn't do it. But we did that as a way to raise money for youth cycling teams and all that. We never made money. It wasn't a business. We did it to set it up, and we supported a cycling team in Ontario for years, and so those kids could have an opportunity and things like that. And so, and the other thing is, my wife and I, there's a lot. We're building some outdoor rinks. We're building one in Penticton right now, and putting that. We've done 3 other ones in communities. So, again, and I always believe if life's been good to you, you do your part back, and so that's what I want to spend the rest of my days doing. So.
That's amazing. Well, it has been such an honor to have you on here, Graham. And I know, I want to go through and make sure that the people that, there's a few people that gave you shout outs is Lou Friedman and
Lou. Yeah.
And the Hode.
The Hode, Stephen Hoadley. Yeah,
yes.
Hode did my races in Ontario back in the early days. So that's an old one coming out.
Yeah.
Lou Friedland was the president of Hawaii Ironman when we started this all. So
who's
the guy who did it with me.
That's fantastic. Well, they wanted to say hi, and definitely, it's been an honor to talk to you, sir. And I'll give you one more thing if you want to just give one last piece of advice for the people sitting out there listening to you going, this guy's been around a long time, knows his way. What would you say to them?
You know what? Enjoy it while you're in it. While you're doing it, enjoy it. Like a lot of people, stress over the race, stress over the whole thing. Don't make it a stress. It's a hobby. It's something you should love. It is not a stress. Just enjoy every minute, because like we're living right now, you don't know when it's taken away. And I tell you, when I can't run right now with my hip, and I sure miss and love running. I've been a 40-something year runner, and boy, when you can't do it, you really know you can't do it. So just enjoy it all. And
love it.
And that's life. Enjoy it.
Graham Fraser, thanks for everything that you've done, not only for the triathlon community, for the youth who are coming up through into triathlon, and for all those in North America saying, "Oh, thank you for Graham Fraser bringing all those races to us."
I appreciate it. I
Thanks
appreciate you
again for
having
your
me on, and good luck
Oh,
with everything.
definitely. Thanks again for your time, and make sure to tune in next week. We've got great guests. You can go to iwishIwasracing.com and find out more. Thanks again for joining us. Have a great day.